Good morning, I'm Father X. In this episode, we'll talk about a really hot topic, co-parenting. Many people have the wrong perception of what this is and how to testify about it in their child custody case. I'll share legal strategies around co-parenting with examples of good and bad co-parenting. And at the end of this video, I'll share my personal, superpowered technique for knowing what to do in a co-parenting conflict. It's a technique all dads need to use in custody battles. It's based on my many years of experience co-parenting with my son's mother, who disagrees with me on almost everything. First, why does co-parenting matter so much? When two parents raise a kid in two homes, it requires extra coordination for their child's activities that take place across both homes. Things related to education, homework, medicine, or extracurricular activities. Not everything requires coordination, but many things do. So for the things that require coordination, do the parents have a low conflict or a high conflict relationship? The level of conflict is a key factor because if a court is going to issue 50-50 custody, then that requires more coordination between the parents. And the court is more likely to do that if the parents are in a lower conflict relationship and able to talk through issues and resolve them peacefully. But if the parents are in high conflict and every issue brings tons of drama and miscoordination, then the court doesn't want to put the child through that. And in those cases, the parent that's most difficult to deal with, the parent that's most unreasonable in resolving conflicts, is the one that should be made the non-custodial, alternate weekend, part-time parent. You don't want to be that parent that creates unnecessary drama, and you should testify about specific examples of the other parent's unnecessary drama. Let's talk about your legal strategy related to co-parenting. During your custody trial, you'll propose a parenting schedule to the judge, and that schedule should make sense based on the facts of your situation with the mother. For example, if the facts show that you and the mom can effectively co-parent and resolve parenting issues together, that's awesome, and it makes sense to seek 50-50 custody. On the other hand, if the facts show you that you and the mother have tons of drama and conflict when discussing parenting issues, then it's more likely that one of you will end up with primary custody, and your proposal should be that you have primary custody. This removes unnecessary conflict from your kid's life. I say that as a parent who's had primary custody and who's had to co-parent with a mother that's impossible to deal with. The primary custodial parent should be the one that's more able to cooperate and solve problems, and not the troublemaker. Co-parenting is a key best interest factor that you want to win, but also keep in mind that custody should be based on the total circumstances and all the other best interest factors too, not just co-parenting. In addition, domestic violence is a major factor related to co-parenting. Why? Because the courts generally don't want to force a person to coordinate and co-parent with the other parent who has physically or emotionally abused them. It depends on the severity of the abuse, but this is the general way that courts think. And this is part of the reason so many mothers make false allegations of domestic violence. So the court gives the mother primary custody without forcing her to co-parent with her alleged abuser. She gets to remove the dad from her life. Here's some key questions you can ask yourself to prepare your testimony. And then I'll give you some examples to make it real for you. First, give examples where you were both able to co-parent and coordinate on meeting your child's needs. These can include medical issues like administering medication, following up on doctor appointments and medical care between your two homes, and joint doctor visits. Education, doing homework in two homes, meeting teachers together. Scheduling pickup and drop-off, and switching parenting time for special occasions without any drama. Jointly working on extracurricular activities and peacefully attending your child's sports or school events. Second, give examples of where you were both not able to coordinate on meeting your child's needs. What was the cause of this? And you can't just say that mom was a jerk. Testify clearly about the facts of what happened and what she said and did that make her unreasonable, so a clueless and biased judge can easily see the mom was unreasonable. Third, do you have any concerns about the other parent's ability to co-parent with you? Explain it. Now, let's see some examples of good versus bad co-parenting. I'm oversimplifying when I label these as good and bad. A lot of this can be subjective, especially when there's miscommunication. So when you testify about examples in your own case, use clear stories where it's obviously good or bad co-parenting, as opposed to messy examples that don't clearly show one side is right or wrong. And be objective when you analyze the mom's behavior like a neutral person would be. Many people talk about co-parenting versus parallel parenting, as if you can choose to do one or the other. That's totally wrong. In reality, throughout your child's life, there will be times where you have to co-parent and coordinate, and there will be other times when you parallel parent and each parent does what they want with the kids. For example, if your kid has baseball practice every Saturday and a baseball game every Sunday, you don't want your kid to miss half the games because they're with the other parent on alternate weekends. They would probably be kicked off the team. So good co-parenting requires both parents to take the child to baseball during their weekends. Of course, that doesn't mean both parents have to sit next to each other during the game and hug each other when their kid does a good job, although that would be very nice. But it does mean that you have to avoid arguing at the event, so your kid doesn't feel the stress of both of you hating each other during his game. Another example, if you have alternate weekends and your kid has an exam on Monday, both parents should encourage your child to study for the exam several days before, during each of their parenting times. If one parent gets an attitude and says they're not going to have the kid study Saturday or Sunday because the other parent should have the child study during their parenting time, the previous Wednesday or Thursday, that's not good co-parenting. That's just selfish. Another example, if your child needs prescription medicine every day for 2 weeks and it goes across each parent's parenting time, the first parent should tell the second parent what the medicine is for, give them the medicine, and tell them the time of the last dose you gave your kid, so the other parent can continue. If one of the parents cannot do that, that's bad co-parenting. Or if one parent takes the child to a doctor and refuses to give the other parent contact information for that doctor or the medical records, that's bad co-parenting. Here's a horrible example. In my case, in the middle of our 3-year trial process, our baby boy needed medicine for 2 weeks. When the mom dropped off our son, she gave me the medicine, but she had ripped off half the label from the medicine bottle. And she didn't give me the prescription instructions that always come with medication. And then she just left. I was shocked at how she could give me a medicine bottle with a label ripped off. I had to look up the medication on Google to figure out whether you give it with food or without food, and whether you refrigerate it or leave it at room temperature. I was so frustrated that she would do this. I emailed her about how absurdly she was acting. I wasn't cursing in the email, but it was definitely strongly worded, to say the least. The very next time we went to court, the mother's lawyer started ranting and raving to the judge about how I have so much animosity and I send the mom vicious emails. But he didn't talk about the content of my email. He totally ignored those facts. My lawyer immediately stood up, holding a picture of the medicine bottle with the label ripped off, and my lawyer started yelling, "Do you know why these emails happen? Do you know why the father has to communicate this way to the mother? Look at this picture of a prescription bottle with a label torn off. She drops off the baby with medicine and the label is torn off, and my client has to deal with that." You guys can see how the mother's lawyer tried to manipulate the story to make it seem like I was a monster sending mean emails, but he was hiding from all the content of the email. It's called fake moral indignation. That's a cheap tactic that cheap lawyers use. But we were ready with the actual facts and a picture of the medicine bottle, and everybody in the courtroom thought there was something wrong with the mother. This wasn't just bad co-parenting, it was putting our child at risk with bizarre behavior. That's why you testify about very clear instances of good versus bad co-parenting. If it's a not so obvious example, like maybe when you limit your kid's screen time to 30 minutes a day, but the mother does 2 hours a day. If you go to court angrily complaining that the mother doesn't limit screen time to 30 minutes, then you'll probably come across like a controlling jerk because the other parent has the right to do what they want with their child during their parenting time. And it goes both ways. If the mother is unreasonable and trying to control what you do during your parenting time, talk about these stories in your testimony to show how difficult it is to co-parent with such a controlling mother. Let's talk about areas where you don't need co-parenting, but you can do parallel parenting. Let's say you personally teach your kid karate, while the other parent is personally teaching your kid how to play the piano. And these are just things that each parent does at home during their parenting time. You don't have to get your kid piano lessons or teach them yourself to supplement the other parent's work. It would be extra nice if you did, but it doesn't make you a bad co-parent if you don't. All you have to do is be happy for your kid that they're learning to play the piano. Just don't be destructive or negative about your child playing piano with the other parent. If the other parent feeds your child a diet that's 90% vegetables, you don't have to do the same thing. You can feed them whatever you want, assuming your child doesn't have a medical condition that requires a specific diet. Each parent will teach your kid different things, and the goal is to allow that to happen. If you encourage it, that's great, but at the very least, just don't discourage it. Live and let live. If mom can't do that, testify about specific examples to show you're a better co-parent and that you have your kid's best interests in mind. Here's another example. Let's say that one parent signs up your child for an activity every Saturday and it crosses both parents' parenting time. A parent shouldn't do that unless they ask for the other parent's agreement in the first place. That's what a cooperative parent would do. If this happens to you, testify about how the other parent excludes you from decision making. Of course, this gets tricky if your kid wants to do that activity because you're both supposed to encourage your child's activities. So make sure you don't come across like the bad guy. And don't just try to get even with a mother by preventing your kid from doing the activity during your time, assuming you can even take him to it. Maybe you can't. Just focus your testimony on how she excludes you from decision making and how you have not done that to her. Be the mature one. In an intense custody battle, you each need to prove you're the mature one. So unfortunately, you have to think about, what would a neutral judge think about my behavior versus her behavior? Before you take any action, think about how it would be perceived in a courtroom. Also, get ready for the false allegations, where the mother tries to show you as an uncooperative and bad co-parent. When you hear these allegations, they'll probably be based on half-truths. Your strategy is to anticipate all these false allegations, and then be ready to tell the entire truth of what you did as a co-parent. And then, more importantly, state why your actions were in the best interests of your child. Do not expect the judge to figure out that you were right. You have to explain it to them like they're 10 years old, how your actions were correct. Make it obvious. You will have many co-parenting conflicts. How should you make decisions in these moments, especially with a custody case looming over your head? Here's my technique that I've used to decide how I should handle my many co-parenting conflicts. I ask myself 4 questions about the situation before I take any action or send any emails to the mother. First, what action would I take to piss off the mother or make it harder for her out of revenge? Second, what would I do if I wanted to act in the best interests of the mother? Third, what action would I take to make things easier for me personally? And finally, what action would I take if I were a superhero parent and only wanted what was best for my son? Once I know the answer to all 4 questions, then I just choose the 4th one, the actions to make me a superhero parent that only cares about what's best for my son. This technique tells me the 3 wrong answers of what not to do and the 1 correct answer, and it'll come natural to you when your child is the most important person in your world. As a father, you have to assume everybody in family court will jump all over you if you make bad co-parenting decisions. You have to block them from being able to do that, and you have to testify about what actions you took that make you a good co-parent. And you have to say why those actions were best for your child, to show you're acting in their best interest. Co-parenting with somebody that you don't like and who hates you is extremely difficult. All of us in this situation go through it. But remember that when your child turns 25 years old, you want them to look at you and say that you always did what was best for them. That's your guiding light. And as it so happens, that's also the best way to present yourself in a custody trial. Now we've covered co-parenting, which is a major best interest factor in any custody case. In the next episodes, we'll discuss additional factors so you can learn what to talk about and how to put it together for your judge. These might be the darkest days of your life. They were for me. I'm making these educational videos to help you navigate this nightmare. If you subscribe, you can get updates when I post more videos. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends who are in a similar situation. Please support this channel so I can make more videos. You can donate via my YouTube channel's About page using PayPal or Venmo.